Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. Hope everyone's doing well. Now this is a video that I had planned to make, but I had no idea when I was going to make it because I was dependent upon the cooperation of my significantly better half. And let me just give you the background to this. I get quite a lot of questions by email and also, of course, on the comment section, some of which are hidden, so they don't actually, get published. And I thought it would be a good idea sometime to sort of do a curation, if you like, of those common questions and that I would sit and answer. But I wanted to give it a bit of authenticity. So rather than me sort of, scrolling through and selecting those that I liked and then giving a sort of a canned or pat answer that I'd had time to think about, I thought, if I ask my dear beloved to, do that exercise for me and then randomly write down 10 questions based on what was popular, like if there's a lot of people ask the same thing, and give a little bit of other sort of metrics kind of thing. So not who's going to win this fight, because whatever fight is was probably gone, right? And of course, whenever you have time, that was my kind of ask, if you like. So as I came in from being outside, she happens to be home today, she handed me a yellow piece of paper and said, "Hey, there's your questions." Thank you. And I guess I should answer these questions, and we'll see. Okay. Well, I'll do my best. We'll Q&A these and see how it goes, and we'll take it from there. And then maybe we'll do something maybe a bit more formal next time. I'll sort of ask people, like submit questions on a certain subject or something. Well, we'll see. Anyhow. So, first question. You don't sound Canadian. Well, I'm not sure if it's a question or a statement. Okay. How to tell you're not a Canadian? By asking such a question. Because honestly, Canada is a massive country, as I'm sure you know. It's like 41 times bigger than the UK. I don't know why I know that. Somehow it's in my mind. Like 10 million square kilometers, right? And in my professional life, I had the opportunity to travel to each of the Canadian provinces, with the exception of Newfoundland and Labrador. Excuse me, please. And I haven't been to some of the territories. But I can assure you that somebody in Quebec will sound quite different to somebody from Newfoundland and Labrador, who will in turn sound quite different to somebody from Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia. The other thing is that, Canada truly is one of those sort of multicultural places. Lots and lots of people have moved here from other parts of the world. And so it's also thought to be kind of a weird thing to ask now. For what it's worth, I'm born and raised in the UK, and I left the UK over 40 years ago. So I guess my accent has changed since when I was a kid, of course. In fact, I have been told that. But do I say out in a boot? No, but I do say a lot. So I guess my accent is, I don't know, somewhere between point A and point B. But there we go. Second question. Why do you like vintage fighters so much? There's a couple of really good answers here. One is, we tend to have as our sporting heroes people that we sort of grew up watching, right? So you're kind of frozen. If you grew up watching Muhammad Ali will always be one of your sporting heroes. Likewise, if you grew up, it's some other period of time watching Tyson, watching Lennox. If you're growing up now and you're watching today's top fighters, they'll always be in your head. So sometime, if you're a young guy and you're watching this and you happen to think Usyk is the cat's pajamas, live long enough and somebody say, hey, how come you like that vintage fighter Usyk guy? Well, this happens. The other thing is, for me, I particularly like to look back to fighters of yesteryear. Some of the stories are really awesome. People clawed their way out of poverty and against such circumstances that we really, and thankfully, we see much less of today. So many of those, and the 15-round fights, the wars, the great names. It's hard not to like it, right? Who is the greatest? I think I answered that question. I've done top 10 of, I think, most of the weight classes. Most of the original weight classes. For what it's worth, the greatest heavyweight ever, in my view, is Joe Louis. Greatest heavyweight in my lifetime, Muhammad Ali. Greatest fighter of all time, for all time. My own personal view, hey, Sugar Ray Robinson. Honorable mention to Greb and Armstrong and others. Go check out my videos on these subjects. Question number 4. Why don't you like British fighters? I didn't know I didn't like British fighters. No, actually, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing a couple of comments about that. It must have been because I did a video about Tyson Fury, I guess, that I wasn't, overly complimentary. Serious answer. I mean, the more fighters you've got from a nation in a prominent position, then the more of those fighters you're going to like, and the more of those fighters consequently you're going to dislike. Like if suddenly France produced 30 world-class boxers, then a lot of us would find, of those 30, some we didn't like. And then somebody would say, well, how come you don't like French fighters? Well, it's because we've now been exposed to them, right? So that's one reason. The other reason, again, is, of course, I'm patriotic as anybody, and particularly when I was younger. So it's not to do with patriotism, but I grew up watching and admiring American boxers. So, again, 60s and 70s, there were some very, very good British boxers, but on that elite world stage, particularly, like many, I was interested in the heavyweight division. It was dominated by, American fighters and African American fighters. So one got used to sort of, not worrying so much about the fact that they weren't wearing the Union Jack. You just sort of admired them for what they were doing, right? So now I pay little attention to where a fighter's from. The other thing, of course, as well, is that nationality is almost, it's transferable. Look at me, right? I'm an example. I don't carry the same passport as I did, 40 odd years ago, right? So, yeah, I mean, there are some British fighters I don't like. I've done videos about them. There are some British fighters I like very, very much, and I've done videos about them, right? My favorite fighter today would would not be British, I don't think, because it would be Usyk. Though I'm very fond of watching Fabio Wardley fight. So, and he's a Brit, right? So, anyhow, I'm struggling because. Not because of my eyes, but because this is not my handwriting I'm reading. Oh, I see. Why don't you have footage and better editing? 1 second. Because if I knew how to edit, I would edit out the fact that I just took a drink of water. I don't know how to do it. And I don't know how to add footage. I'm not sure if I would, if I knew how, I'm not sure if I would use it. Because then you got all these copyright issues. But the basic thing is, I'm a retired guy. I don't know how to do this. And I didn't think that, well, anyhow, I don't know how to do it. And I guess I haven't bothered to learn how to do it. And even if I did know how to do it, would I edit and add footage? I don't know. I mean, depends how long it took. And I don't know. But that's the short answer. Excuse me. What makes you such an expert? I assume there was a question mark there. Well, I'm not an expert. So that's the end of the story, right? I think I did a video when I first started this adventure. You know, why does a retired baby boomer start doing this? And that's where the answers are. I never thought that I would have anywhere near as many subscribers as I have. But I'm absolutely not an expert. I'm just a guy on the internet who's been watching boxing since... I remember sort of seeing it in black and white TV in the 60s, right? So it's a long time ago. But I've been certainly since since Cooper Bugner, I've been like a very keen fan. I guess that's the way of putting it. I'm not an expert at all. No, I mean, I have opinions, and I very much enjoy talking about it with people who also enjoy talking about it. So yeah, but no, I don't have any qualifications or anything like that. So just a guy. How easy is it to start a YouTube channel, and how much money? I'm not sure if that's how much money. Anyways, whatever. It's really easy to do. I'm probably the last person on the planet that didn't know how to do it. To basically upload something. I don't think that's that question. I don't think that's the question. How easy is it to start a YouTube channel? Yeah, it's really easy. But if you're asking me like how to be successful, then you're asking the wrong guy. Because I don't know. When I started here, I think I was sitting in that corner. I thought maybe I would have 20 people. So I mean, I don't really know, and I don't know how some videos get tons and tons of views and some videos, really don't. How much money? It's free to enter. How much money can you make? Well, I haven't seen a cent yet. YouTube tells me that I've got a couple of $100 coming. So that's out of 400 and something videos. So if you're thinking of doing this as a side hustle, as a part-time job, I think you probably better talk about, I don't know, hair and makeup or something, because they're much more popular. I don't know. You'd have to ask that question of somebody who had, like a hat man or somebody like that, because I don't know. And if you're thinking of doing YouTube, as a side hustle, and you want to stay in that boxing thing, I'd say, it strikes me as it's a pretty tight niche. So, like I say, seriously, I'm not sure if doing it for money, if that's your motivation, you might want to think of doing something other. Just my view, right? Do you interview fighters and trainers? Well, I'll talk to anybody. But yes, I have interviewed Max Hercules Jenkins, who I understand is actually going to, is in the running to have a fight with George the Future Fox. I kid you not. So I've interviewed Max Jenkins, very, very nice fellow, Max. And Julian McGowan, of course, Jules, top trainer, top amateur and professional level trainer. And that's been wonderful. So short answer is yes. But do I go around with a microphone at events? No, I mean, there are no events around here. Like where I'm located, I have a greater chance of seeing a bear or a moose than running into a boxer. So I'm not going to carry a microphone for the bear and the moose. Do you think Usyk will retire? Oh, unbeaten. Unbeaten. It looked like it was embalmed, and I'm like, what? Anyhow, do you think Usyk will retire unbeaten? I would like him to retire unbeaten. My personal view, I'd like him to beat Dubois. I'd like him to beat Parker. I'd like him to beat Kabayel. I'd like him to then go away. Since that's unlikely, I would like him to beat Dubois and then retire. Do I think that's going to happen? Actually, no. In my gut, I think he's going to get beaten. I would like him to do what Lennox Lewis has done. Just, retire and not come back. I'm not so sure if Usyk will do that. Are you scripted? I swear that word looks like sacrificed. Are you scripted? Hell no. If anybody's watched these videos, they'll know it's not scripted. No, I mean, I have notes, right? Especially if I'm doing the historical stuff, speaking for like 30 minutes about facts and information, I just can't keep it in my head. Like I might have known it one time, and maybe when I was younger, I might have remembered a lot more of it. But no, I make notes now. And I make notes about lots of things, I didn't have any notes for this, and I don't follow a script. Like I don't have it all typed out. I don't read it out or anything. I think also maybe the question is directed to scripted when there's a bunch of us talking. No, but what we will do is if I'm talking to Jamie every Sunday, right? Say like, hey, is there anything that you want to talk about? And like this recent one, we took a different view on a Turkey Al Sheikh tweet. So he'd commented on it when I uploaded the video, and we said, hey, this would be a good thing to talk about on Sunday. And so that was one of our segments was that. But no, not scripted, not like, oh, you say this, I'll say that. And I don't know the views of people going, into a video. I might sometimes because we've talked on the WhatsApp thing, So like when Bakole was last fighting, I knew that Andy would be supportive of Bakole because Bacole's based in Scotland, and Andy from Andy's Cavern, which you should subscribe to, was obviously a Bakole supporter. So I kind of knew that, but we don't. It's not scripted. You don't get questions ahead of time and all that sort of stuff. Just authentic, bunch of guys who've never met, don't sort of know each other in that respect, but I've got to know each other through this. Just talking boxing, just like you'd see guys down the pub or, the Legion or wherever you hang out, sports bar. That's it. Those are 10 questions. Phew, that was a lot harder than I was anticipating it being because, like I say, I didn't have much of a lead here. But if you like, please please share, and please subscribe. Really appreciate how the channel's going, as you all know. And if you think this has been worthwhile, maybe we can figure out some way of doing it again. Maybe even do one of those live things, which I have not yet done. So there we go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.